I went to a grammar school. I was told most days what a monkey I was. Uh, Now, see, in where I come from, I say the devil is a bad devil.
Yes.
So he had planted evil words in my historicity in my own home. Now I get to school, and these kids
Are confirming.
you effing African, you monkey. They would put bananas on my table at school. Now, what made it even more difficult was the fact that my parents weren't around.
Don't let what you've done hinder you. Don't you let where you've been hinder you. Don't let what they say hinder you. Don't you let your past hinder you. You're a woman without limits. You're a woman without limits. There's nothing the enemy can do to stop what God has for you. You're a woman without limits. You're a woman without limits. Woman without limits. Na 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 na. Woman without limits. Woman.
Hey, good evening, viewers. You are welcome to Woman Without Limits. Remember, we've said we are without limits. And so today we have an amazing guest. You know how we do it. We always bring people that revolutionize your lives. And so today you better buckle your safety belt because the man who's coming on, we all know him. If you don't know him, then you don't watch screens. Because if you have any screens at all, you will know him. He has an amazing show that we all watch and we all love. I won't even preempt. You will find out what that show is about. He is a father. He is a husband. He is a songwriter. He is a singer. He is a producer, a presenter, a host. I mean, he is all like I was looking at him and wondering, how does he manage all these hats? He keeps removing, wearing all different hats, but then he plays the roles so well. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to welcome with me the amazing Mr. Muyiwa himself. I do not want to imagine pronouncing the second name. He's going to pronounce it himself. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you so much. I have to say your nails are distracting because the sparkle in them. I'm like, woo, child, bless the
Child,
Lord of my
please.
soul and all that is within my fingernails. Come on.
Bless his holy name. I told you I love bling.
So do I, man.
So do you.
It's just unfortunate I can't wear the blings you wear because it will cause a problem on social media.
It will bring a starring. But I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah.
When they told me you were in Kenya, I said, wow, we got this. And so our daughter made it possible for us to be here today on Woman Without Limits. This is a show that ministers to very, very many people. And what we like is to hear the story behind the man. Because see, people know you as this amazing man, and that's beautiful. But we just want to know who is Muyiwa.
Yeah. But thank you so much for having me. It's my confession I made earlier on, so it's no shock to you. I watch when you have brothers and friends of mine, be it Samuel Poso or Sinach, I call her Mrs. Egu, Sinach Egu,
Wow.
who are here, and just the experience in the worship in your church, what experiencing it online is a phenomenal experience. And like I said to you when we were walking in,
Right.
I imagine what would it be like being in the building, because it'll be 200% That's it. So I walk into your auditorium and I feel like I should kneel down and kiss the floor, you know. So I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Right.
Like you said, wear many hats, which I'm grateful to God for. And I wish I could say it was because I was trained for it or I went to the best schools, or but actually my story is similar to many people who pass through your ministry. You know, the broken that you and Bishop so ably minister to is my story. My story of, you know, you when you and your husband will preach, you talk about the God doing the Almighty with the least likely.
With the least likely,
You know,
exactly.
and that's my story. So when you ask the question, who is Muyiwa?
Yeah.
He was the least likely. He was the kid they forgot about, who was
The
looking
David.
after the sheep in the backside of the bush, you know. And here we are now.
In Nigeria?
No, well, I grew up the early part of my life in Nigeria.
Right.
At the age of 9, I was sent back to the UK. And
At the age of 9.
by the age of 9, now, you know, with a lot of us Africans who our children go to boarding school, by the age of 8, they're in boarding school. I think it's only in the last maybe 20 years that there's a generation that thinking, you know, the mental well-being of my child does not agree with me sending my child away at the age of 8.
Right.
But back in the day, it was usual for the child to go to boarding school.
Very young.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
pack them off.
Right.
Mine wasn't boarding school so much. Mine was the economy of Nigeria had crashed. And it was interesting enough, under the same leader that's leading the country now. And my parents just they felt a need to rescue their child. I'm the first son, but I have 2 older sisters.
Okay.
My older sisters had gone through university, and they went to university very young age. They were geniuses, and they still are. One went to university age of 16, the other at the age of 15, and
Wow.
then I was compared to them using the matrix they were using at that point. I was daft, and they let me know.
That you were daft.
People let me know. My family told me I was the dumb one, and it's interesting, that chapter of my life, because my mother, in conceiving me, had an experience with God. Well, she wanted a son. She had 2 girls. My father was happy with 2 girls,
Right.
but she wanted a son, and she had an experience where she prayed, and a hand was handing her a boy in her dreams. And to grab the boy, the hand took him back, and then she heard the voice say, "You must promise to give him back if you want him." And she said yes. And then she conceives. They have a boy, and imagine it, First Lady, you have a promise from God that I will give you a son, and then when he arrives, all social norms labels him as defective. So your promise
Doesn't look like.
it doesn't look like your reality, and then what do you do in the middle of that? And for me, I'm grateful for Shola Olatunde Olarewaju, which is one of the reasons I felt quite emotional when Her Majesty the Queen gave me an OBE, because I wish my mum was around to experience that.
I was actually going to come into that and ask you how that went, and you know we're going to get there. But how did that put you down? Did it make you insecure?
It crushed me. Crushed me. I still deal with that monkey at this stage in my life. I mean, I'm at a stage in my life. I have thank God, I have a great home. A home. Shalom is abundant in my home. My wife is incredibly supportive. I have 2 great sons. I lead the only commercial Christian radio station in my country. I do a TV show in America that they say 70 million people watch. I make music, do concerts to audiences that, at least in my country, few artists do what I do.
Right.
And all that will be considered success, but still the gnawing noise of the lies told me when I was a kid.
That you're not enough.
Not enough still, and so I have to, which is why I firstly, yeah, let me say for you and your husband, please don't stop doing what you're doing, because the words of life which you preach, you don't know. So, I mean, a lot of people come for counseling with you, but there are some of us that sit in the middle row. We look insignificant, and as you speak, it's re-engineering and the scientific thing of it, because we talk mysterion, the mysteries of God, and people forget that what you do is scientific, because all those things that were said when I was young, neurons in my mind were forming. And they were connecting, and I said earlier on to someone, when you look in the brain, they look like trees, and those junctions are the ones that say, okay, Muyiwa idiots, Muyiwa idiots, because you heard it so much. But then when we come into your auditorium and you say you are the apple of God's eyes, you can do all things through Christ. It begins to re-engineer that in the brain,
you are
literally
created for a purpose.
And so it's so important. What you and Bishop do, and that really was what helped re-engineer my life. It was the word of God in the house of God and
that
people of God
transforming you.
Absolutely, because those words crushed me. Those words, it crushed me to a point where I believed I couldn't read. I believed if there weren't pictures in the book, I couldn't read a book.
You couldn't read? And did it work like that? Like you tried to, but you couldn't?
Well,
because you believed it? Because you see, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
So we had a discussion at one of your other stations. We were talking about perception and reality. So my perception, which was formed by the words that have been put into me, was that Muyiwa, you can't comprehend or process. So you needed pictures. And so all I did was pictures.
Oh my God.
Until the words of the Spirit, which became to
change that,
re-engineer.
alter that. Do you know, I've done psychology, and what they say is that from a baby, the foundational stages are critical, because what you tell a child at that time, it takes root in them, and to uproot that becomes very, very difficult. So I hear what you're saying, that when you're a child, the foundation is very, very important. So yours was very rocky.
Oh, it was. And here's the thing, because people assume if you're in a middle class family, if the money is good, everything is fine. But actually, it was a mess, because my mother was a broadcaster. She was a very well-known broadcaster in Nigeria. Yes, my father was an academician. Now, can you imagine, in the house of an academician, there is this child
who's not getting it,
who's and so the assumption that people make. Again, it brings it back to the work that the ministry does, that we don't make assumptions because we don't perceive men by the flesh. It's the eye of the Spirit. So when you're speaking sometimes and people are looking, thinking, what's the Kevin saying?
Yeah,
they look fine.
Yeah.
In your eyes they look fine, but in the eyes of the Spirit, and so for me, if it not been, which is why, I get, when I'm going to sing, I get on stage, and one of the scriptures I love to read is, if it not been for the Lord who was on our side, for if it not been for the Lord who was on our side, when the enemy came in like a flood, when I was a little boy, we would have been snuffed out, but our soul escaped like a bird out of the snare of the fowler. But God, and it's a journey of but God.
So how long did that take you? Like, from a little boy who's been told constantly it's impossible, how long did it take you to readjust? Like, at what age? Were you bullied? Did you?
Ooh. Ooh. That was a trigger word there, man. That was a trigger word. Because when I was at school, Archbishop Tennyson's grammar school, and for those who live in England, they know grammar school is top of the tree next to the Harrows and the Eatons and the likes. I went to a grammar school. I was told most days what a monkey I was. Now, see, in where I come from, they say the devil is a bad devil.
Yes.
So he had planted evil words in my historicity in my own home. Now I get to school, and these kids
Are confirming.
you effing African, you monkey. They would put bananas on my table at school. Now, what made it even more difficult was the fact that my parents weren't around because they were dealing with the economic hardship of Nigeria.
Right.
And so them sending me away was akin to putting me on a basket and putting me on the Nile.
It was a Moses situation.
It was straight Moses situation, and they hoped that some kind of way it will work out in crocodile infested waters, which is what the UK was.
Yeah.
But it was the best they felt they could do. But in the middle of all that, Romans 8:28, all things was working together
for good.
God
for those
was working
who love
it,
the Lord.
you know.
So tell me, oh my gosh, this is so powerful. So while you're there,
Yeah.
are you feeling rejected? Are
Absolutely.
you blaming your parents?
Absolutely. Because I'm a young boy. I don't understand. My understanding of the scriptures want that
It's limited.
I'm just a teenager.
Right.
I remember actually because we grew up Church of England. Stumbling into Pentecostalism was a church called the Apostolic Church. I only ended up there because there's a boy who I knew growing up. So he pops up in London. You laugh at this. He says to me, I know a church where there are girls. I'm a 12-year-old. I don't know what on earth I was thinking about.
Right.
But that was the male role model that was in my life because there were no parents around.
Right.
Takes me to this church, and thank God for the church because the church then became my family,
You anchor.
my
Wow.
anchor.
Right.
Because while I'm going through bullying at school, being abused, and I'm going through, and whilst I'm at school, 12, 13, I start working. Now, you know, in the UK, you're not supposed to work until you're 16, 17, 18.
Of course.
I start working when I'm 12 because I'm a big boy.
Right.
I'm working illegally. So, and all that wrapped up. But what I didn't know, and which is why, again, and forgive me for saying it so much, the house of the Lord, Psalm
Come on.
73,
Yes.
I would have lost all hope, I paraphrase, until I came into the house of the Lord and I understood the end of the wicked.
Right.
Because I was suffering, looking, thinking there's nothing wrong with me, but I was looking at the wicked thinking, but nothing's wrong with them.
Right.
Their money is not funny. Their children are fine. But, you know, and for me, it wasn't until I came into the house of God that he began to re-engineer things because the bullying, when I came to house of God, I had a family
Right.
who spoke
So
positive.
there's somewhere you could go and unwind and run to.
Absolutely.
People who would speak life and positive things over your life.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know, and all that made a difference. That was my journey to repairing my brokenness.
Woman. Woman.
Tell me, did you carry then bitterness out of the students who are bullying you and abusing you? Did you have bitterness?
Oh yes, I did.
Yeah.
I'm only human, and this is the thing for when we see people with chronic streaks of bitterness, a lot of the times we will be at the pastor. Why don't you just deal with them? We'll come, Pastor Kathy, just deal with
What's
them.
wrong with you?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
people don't realize that it's the people in ministry know that person didn't just land on earth with bitterness. There's a whole load of brokenness they're dealing with
From different places.
from different places.
People. Yeah, and people you love, because because people you love, you're looking at this person comparing you to maybe your sisters, and you really didn't have it. You didn't choose to not perhaps be that genius, but every person in life has a purpose.
Well, for me, I'm grateful that the bitterness.
Yeah.
Thank God He protected my relationship with my siblings. That the comparing some kind of way didn't affect me with them.
You didn't get mad at them.
I didn't get mad at them. But that said, God being good in my family, the only one that sat with heads of states and had conversations with them like this is the dumb kid in the family. The only one that's filled stadiums is a dumb kid in the family.
And I want to come to that turnaround. You see, what's really amazing is, Muyiwa, when people see you and they see all the glamour and they see all the beauty, all the presence of God that you walk in, and all everything like that. When they see the glory, they don't know the story. And so this story, I know, will turn many lives around, because you see, what you're saying is, you just see Muyiwa out there, shining, but there is a story behind the scenes. And what you're doing is encouraging somebody who's there right now, being bullied, being abused, being put down, shamed, and all that. You're really helping them to know that it's not the end. It's just a means.
The reality is, the brokenness you're dealing with is not the sum total of you. It's just an opportunity to see the masterwork of the builder, to take the bits and put them together to make something beautiful. But whilst you're in it, it doesn't feel like it. Whilst you get a child, and Pastor Kathy, here's the thing. What was said of me at the age of 9, when I had my first son, Oluwaloni Chibueze Olarewaju, they said...
No, say it slowly, please.
Oluwaloni Chibueze Lael Olarewaju.
Okay, I'm going to try that.
Oluwaloni
Chibueze
Lael
Olarewaju. So Olarewaju is how you pronounce your name.
That's
Olarewaju.
Right. Olarewaju.
Okay.
So at the same age, school starts to report similar things
about him.
Let me tell you, I came out like a madman.
Everything in you rose.
Not in my house.
The lion of the tribe.
Jehovah. So let me tell you, and my wife was like, don't go and fight this. Relax. I was like, baby, you relax. Me, I'll fight.
Yes.
We can't be both relaxing.
Yes.
Because I realized that there was something in this boy's future that was
the
to
devil
be
was fighting
crushed
again. Yeah.
So now this same boy, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 5, 6 years later,
right?
The same boy that they said that the reports came that I repelled in the name of Jesus, gets a scholarship to one of the best schools in London, a school that should cost me easily $5,000 a month. He gets a scholarship too. He's the only kid.
He can't go back. The devil is alive. So repeating the same story, your story.
Trying to.
See, I don't want you to first go to those children. We are coming. Muyiwa, listen, we are coming to the children.
Yes.
Let's first deal with the father. So here you are. You have decided, did you decide to forgive? And did you go through the process of rebellion? As a kid, you're a teenager, you're in the UK, everybody is doing shenanigans. They call them shakara.
Yeah. No, interesting enough, I of the 4 children that my mother has, I was the kid they said was the best behaved. I didn't. There was no drama, which the producers of Turning Point will say I'm now playing it out in my
Yes.
adult years. What I should have done as a teenager, you know. But I was well behaved. I didn't have any drama, no vices. If any vice, it was wrestling with my hormones as a teenage boy.
Yeah, right.
That was as much as
Which
I
is
did.
normal for
With,
anyone.
forgiveness. I think God helped me, but also sometimes my flesh got the better of me.
Okay.
I remember a young lady who we were we were maybe about 16. She
Right.
had her 16th birthday. And she wasn't even the prettiest girl in class.
Yeah.
But she was having a party, inviting everybody, and me like the mumu. I said, she hasn't invited me. So I went to ask, can I come to your party? The way she slammed me out of the building crushed the little bit of ego that I
was
had
remaining.
left. So now skip forward 2 decades or how many. I'm doing a concert at the O2. This is the first time gospel music will fill that space. I'm signing CDs. I see her in the line. I recognize her.
What do you do?
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
You would have thought I was delivered, but I wasn't. I'd be like, in my mind, I'm thinking, let security let her through.
Find your way here.
Come here now. Come. So I thought
Nonsense.
you have bought a ticket, the same one you won't invite to your birthday party. And she was only a 16-year-old doing what 16-year-olds do.
Yeah.
But isn't it amazing how we carry baggage
Thank you.
as adults?
Thank you.
Things that kids did to us, and we forget that they were only kids just like we were kids. So I'm standing there thinking,
Who's laughing now? Keep coming.
But, being exposed to the Word of God has helped me realize that just as much as a matter of fact, it's helped me realize more
Yeah.
that when, and it's the mirror of the Word, when you look in it, you realize,
Right.
oh, that's still inside of me.
I need to
Lord,
deal
help
with
me. Rather than looking at somebody else and say, you.
Let me show you.
Yeah.
Let me show you who's in charge now. Who's boss?
You know how Nigerians do.
Yeah. I know. I have many friends. I know. Oh my gosh. So you realized that it was still inside.
Yeah.
So you dealt with that. So look, you're telling somebody who's watching us that bitterness can also linger. That you need to be dealing with it as often as you can
Actively.
to release.
You have to be awake to yourself. You can't. We live our lives on autopilot, chasing stuff. You look on Instagram and you believe the report that they've put there. So you start chasing the next fad of Bitcoins and cryptocurrency because you saw somebody else do it.
Yeah.
And you go into an auto mode and forget that you're dying inside.
Right.
You don't realize.
You're so lonely, so crushed.
And it brings me back again to point of fellowship. There'll be something someone will sing, something someone would say. It might even be something that triggers you to get annoyed. Now, when you get annoyed, stop. Before you say, they did, stop and think, why am I reacting like
What
this?
do I need to do?
So this anger is still inside of me. Why is it there?
Yeah.
And do that journey yourself, because it's easy to walk around throwing, that one did, and this one did, and that one did. And my friend, stop.
Yeah.
You're the common denominator here.
Thank you.
So
You can't help what they do to you, but your response is up to you.
Yeah, but I tell my boys, between stimulus, don't ever say your brother made me mad. Your brother did something and you chose to be mad. Because in between stimulus, what I do to you, and response, what you do to me, there's a gap.
Right.
Maturity is how you manage that gap.
Right.
And you biblicists can preach that for hours.
Yes, for hours.
Taking the
I tell
writings
people,
of Apostle
don't
Paul.
React, respond.
Respond.
Yeah. did you now go into marriage? You now met your wife. Were you healed? Were you okay? How was that?
So that's a fascinating story. Well, for me, it's fascinating because my mum used to call her Sister Lola, so we call her Sister Lola for fun. When I try to think about it, I can't imagine who else could have married me and put up with my crazy behaviors and fit so well.
Yeah.
Because there is real shalom in my home. Not that we don't disagree. We have disagreed because my wife was the president of the Women's Liberation Front. She still has a membership card, I think. Wow. So my wife is that young lady that will be like, no man can talk to me anyhow.
Yes.
Who do you think you're talking to? And you know the British girls.
She's a woman without limits.
Oh, yes. No limit at all. But before her, in all my life, I saw my parents argue once, publicly, once. I never saw...
Once.
So I came from a pretty stable environment.
Right.
So I was dating this young lady. My mind was made up. This is who I'm going to marry.
Right.
After maybe 3 years, we went to the same church, same youth group and everything. She went off to university. I was hearing from friends who were in the university that, man, when you were your girlfriend, oh, she's doing this, she's sleeping with this person, that. And you know what? I was like, I don't care. She's doing what she's doing. When she's done, come home, we'll fix it, we'll move on. That was my mindset was, we'll just...
I'll forgive her and we just move on.
You know, after a while, I didn't even... She had moved on herself and she dumped me in a most fantastic way. And I lost my appetite. I lost my... And even when she did, I was still so... I'm quite a focused person.
Right.
You know.
So when you focused and said it was her, you were totally for it.
That was it.
That was it.
So when I got her rejection, I called her cousin, who was our youth leader. He was like an older brother to me.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, please, let's go and see her. Just talk to her.
Yeah.
Pastor, I got to her door and this guy was her cousin. We got to her door. I knocked on the door. The door opened. A guy came naked, but for a towel around his waist. Now, we're all Christians going to a live church.
Yes.
But clearly, you know, she was exploring something. I stood in front of the door and I still asked for her.
You did?
Someone will say I was a mumu and someone has done something to my mind. But I asked for her and he said, who are you? And I said, Muyiwa. Well, she's not here. And then found out she was in the library at her university. I went to the library. I walked in the library. I had flowers now. She looked at me, just turned her head. At that point, I realized it was over.
No, with your flowers? She saw the flowers and just turned her head. Like, do what you want with them.
So you know what? I did what I wanted. I brought them to give to her. I gave it to her. Her cousin said to me, Mui, let's go home. And I thank God that he was there, because it could have been said that maybe I said something or did some. But you know, Pastor, the sweet thing about that is right now, when we look at the story, she's in-laws with my current wife. Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Her brother married my wife's sister. We all grew up together.
Right.
So I married my wife, and by all accounts, not only by my wife, but the gallery of audience watching, my wife is having a whale of a time. And, you know, my sister that I was pursuing, the poor thing, you know, we just thank God for her life. Is
she still waiting? Did somebody come?
No, she has found her way, but, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But for that guy who's now wanting to kill himself because somebody moved on, what would you tell them? Like,
I would tell you, bro, chill.
Yeah, bruh.
Chill, bro. You know,
Yeah.
chill. It's, you know, She might be
Never that serious.
she might be the greatest protoplasm yours you ever saw, size 8 or size 3 or whatever excites you.
Coca-Cola bottle.
I
Figure.
Tyrannoplius.
Yeah.
Don't go on. Don't kill your. I can't kill myself.
Don't blow your
Don't
brains.
kill yourself.
It's well now.
You know that
Yeah.
there is more for you, and the definition of you is not even who you marry, because Christ in you, the hope of glory. Stand up, straighten
Preach
your
it.
back.
Yes.
What's wrong with you? There's
Keep
greater in
walking.
you.
Yes.
Keep walking.
Then he that is in you is greater.
Greater.
Than he that is in the world.
You know, so but I understand. Listen, I'm not talking about something I haven't experienced. I was depressed because I was that guy. I had a lot of friends who were females, because they would say I could relate to how. So that's why I'm talking about the bling that you have, because
Right.
you know.
Right.
So I just cut off the women in my life, because I concluded that women were wicked. I concluded after that one experience.
You made a decision.
I made a decision on all women on earth. So, and you know, 20 years later, some of my relationships, those relationships were just in disrepair. And that's how we do sometimes, because of one bad experience, because of one bad mechanic. Can you imagine
You
how
blame
ridiculous
everyone.
it is?
Yeah.
Because of one bad mechanic you experience, you now say all mechanics are rubbish. You don't do that.
You don't do that.
So why do you do that with all men or all women or all pastors or all worship leaders? Anyhow, let me.
No, this is so powerful. Like, keep moving. Don't let it now destroy your life, because you're destroying yourself.
Absolutely.
And yet, like you said in the beginning, all things work together for good.
Absolutely.
So even that worked together for good because you met Lola.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, once you give your life to Christ, trust him that even in you not knowing him as much as you do, he knows your beginning and your end, and he's directing your life since you've given it to him.
Right.
So when he separates you from some relationship, even though you don't understand it, just embrace the foot of the cross.
Embrace it. Because at the end of the day, it'll work out.
Amen to that.
Okay. So tell me, then you got your children.
Yep.
Was there a delay or they came on time?
There was no delay, though. I have to say, so my wife Lola, like I said, she was a president of the Women's Liberation Front. She wasn't interested really she was the girl in church who would wear combats, low hair, real tomboy.
Right. Wow.
I used to look at her in the drama group at church, and for some reason, Pastor, I used to look and think, she'll make someone a good wife. There was just something that I thought was good and motherly about her.
Right.
Though she had this I'm a bad boy attitude. So we had this experience where she said one day, because in church I was the guy that I looked after all the young people. You know, I was the one people would talk to when they, you know, the girls will have a problem. They'll call me, or this boy is doing. I'll go and beat the boys, and you know, I was that guy.
So you were the big brother.
I was the big brother, and that she knew me as the big brother. But she said there was one day I hugged her, and she said it wasn't a big brother hug. I don't remember. I was just greeting people. So some kind of way in her mind, and she said she had feelings, and she needed. I remember it was a New Year's Day. So she came to me and she says, "I like you," and I said, "I like me too."
She said that.
She did.
Wow.
And I said, "I like me too."
Yeah.
And as I was walking back up to my house, I thought, "You idiot! How can one of these ones that you care for?" You know how she's exposed yourself to say that, and you're walking away like an. So I called her some other time. I said, "Can we go on a date?" I would have missed destiny.
Like that.
I'm telling you, I would have missed destiny.
Right.
Lola was such. She never imagined herself having kids. I mean, she would tell you that just being in the class, in biology class, and getting shown video of how a baby's born put her off forever.
Yeah.
I wasn't the type that I felt until I had children I was complete. And when you trace some of that could be some of what I'd been through. Yeah. And maybe a fear of bringing a child into this world, and the question of would I repeat what had
The
happened to
same
me.
mistakes.
You see. But by the grace of God, we got to the point, and it was a few years, so we didn't have children. And I would have preacher friends. One of them definitely was Pastor Paul Adefrasin.
Yeah.
I remember him saying to me, he calls me Moscow.
Yeah.
We're from Russia with love. He said, Moscow, is your machine working? I'm like what? He said, so where are my babies?
Trust him.
Is my machine working?
You should say, ask Lola.
But we had
Right.
the first boy, and I always wanted two girls, and I ended up with two boys.
boys.
But God knew.
So maybe there are two girls somewhere.
You know,
You don't know. You never know.
you-
You never know.
so long as you and Bishop have got a trust fund somewhere for me. But yeah, so
Wow.
first we had our first boy, and it was such a joy. After I had the boy, I thought, I don't think I'm built for girls, because I would be that dad that's following my daughter around everywhere.
Everywhere.
And who are you? That
Yeah.
when my daughter's gone, who are you speaking to, my
Yes.
girl? You know, I will be that guy.
Right.
You know. So, but then we had the second one. I'm just so grateful to God because the two of them. The second one, generally they say is a reflection of me.
Uh-huh.
But this kid, by the age of 4, he was having angelic experiences where he would see visions. And I mean, he's now 12, and the boy he'll be walking through the house and he'll say, oh, so and so happened. And we'll be like, what are you talking about? And what he said 2 weeks later would happen.
Will happen.
So we're now in the process where we're trying to put Bible on this thing, and so that the boy understands the gift that he has.
Fast forward now. Let's go to the turning point, international. How did you get there? And because that's what most people know you for.
Yeah.
How did you get there? And was it a dream? Did you ever visualize it? Did you ever see it? Or how did it come about?
I call it my "it just happened" story. It just happened that I was working at Sony. I studied music. I was working at Sony. I wanted to be a pop musician, but I didn't realize my mom had made a covenant with God for me to be born. It just happened that pop music wasn't working. I mean, I worked at a record company where I looked after Mariah Carey, Bob Dylan, Maxwell. You know, you list it. And I thought that would be my road to success.
Right.
A lady would listen to a radio show that I do, where I'll say my name in full, and she'll fall out laughing, thinking, who is this Bush boy? She just happened to tell her brother, who is in America,
Yeah.
who just happened to be Victor Oladokun. It just happened that my pastor had gone to America to study, and I just happened to have a desire in my heart to see how he was doing. And I chased him for months. I couldn't find him.
Right.
Finally, I find him, call him. It just happened he's living with Victor Oladokun, who his sister told him about this African boy. Now, I don't know who Victor Oladokun is. I don't know who Turning Point is. It just happened, the preacher says, when I call him to say hello, he says, someone's looking for you. Put some Victor Oladokun. And he discovers that I do music. It just happened that Victor Oladokun says, come from London to America with your group. I go to Turning Point to perform. 7 years before I become the host.
Right.
It just happened in that time, the producers of Turning Point are looking for a new presenter.
Right.
They try, now they're in America. There's
Yeah.
a world of talent there.
Right.
The senior producer who I'd met 7 years before just happened to hear my name in the spirit. Now, for me, that's significant for many reasons.
Wow.
Because an American hearing Muyiwa, I mean, if
In the spirit.
you heard John, David, or Philip,
It's
that
easier.
makes sense.
Yeah.
At that time, BT was giving me a lot of airtime. And so they said, oh, we want him. They fly me to America. They do the screen test. I was terrible. Even I knew I was terrible. I say to their senior manager, director, that how many other people are you going to see? She said, we don't have a plan B.
You're the only plant.
what is this?
Eh.
So it just happened that all those things lined up. I end up doing 13 years later, here we are. It was just a series of it just happened, but the key thing in the middle of it was I was that guy in church that if I was looking after the cleaning of the chairs, you couldn't clean the chair cleaner than me. And I would be the first one there and the last one there.
Right.
Because I understood, not that I was sowing to reap, I understood that this is the house of the Almighty, and I take it as though it was my business.
Wow.
I remember I was a choir leader
Wow.
in the church, and I remember one day the other choir leader said to me, "What's wrong with you? Why do you take everything so seriously? Like you're the only one." And I said to her, "Well, you know what? If we all did that, we'll move faster.
That's
if you
it.
change your world,
all you
I
need.
change my world.
Yeah.
Together we change the
The
world."
entire world.
So for me, I think there was something of being faithful in the house of God and being
Wow.
that kid who I want to see what lion or bear was going to come after the sheep of God. I will knock you out in Jesus' name. Even though I didn't know Bible as much as I should do.
Yeah.
I was aggressively protective over the house of God, the things of God, and the children of
No
God.
wonder he would whisper your name to a lady in America. No wonder she had to pronounce Muyiwa. You know, that's so powerful. You know, because when you put the kingdom first, you have heaven's attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
God is going to be sending your name to China and to every part of the world.
I will follow him. I may not understand it. And if he doesn't do any more miracles, I will follow him.
Yeah.
So that was the end of the journey for my mom.
When they told you, were you devastated?
She was my first love. Woo.